When is the last time you thought about where your clothes come from? No, not the closet, and no, not even the store. Where did the material come from? How was it harvested? Who made it? Where did they make it? How did it get from there to here, wherever there and here are? There's a whole chain, a whole thread that if you start pulling, like you might on a piece of clothing, it'll unravel. And you might not like all the answers. Things get to us for us to consume in inexpensive ways because of the shortcuts, the ways that people are treated, the way that the planet is treated. And we're going to look at that today. How do we treat the life around us? Because even the cotton plant, even perhaps the oil in the ground, is our sibling. Interesting questions, huh? We're going to pull that apart a little bit this week, going on a journey to find out whether we're on the path or a little bit lost. Yes, we're going to go on the path of the marginal way.
Come in and breathe. Come in and just be. Breathe. Breathe. If you need to pray, if you need to weep, wherever you are, whatever you need, come in and just be. Come in and just breathe.
Bunjokwa, Sewara Hunzios, Gotnigari Wessa, Dano de Tino Horado, Ne Aguego Gossat Stan Sorowana Sa Oyera. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni, Ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tino Horado, Ne Ungwasum A, Tukadinayota, Ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni, Ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tino Horado, Ne Yetinistaha Uhundra. Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, Tigahnigarunio, Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Gunjok Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Odera Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Ohande Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Odinuma Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ungwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Gahit Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ungwatnigura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne onunkwa sum'a tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne jun hekwa tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne gunderio tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne garunda sum'a dano overe sum'a tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne oji da ogu'a tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne gaieri ni gawarage ne tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne eti sotogu radiweras tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de chi de wat nu horado ne eti de wat ji a jokaneka garakwa tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne eti sota asontaneka garakwa tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne yojista korunyo tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de chi de wat nu horado ne sungwaya dizu tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Ona tok ni ore, wakaderi wat kwani, doga o tana zunget ni gorha, izagit ne aiza wara sundurum, tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura, tok ni gawanage.
Boys and girls, old and young, all earth's creatures live as one. We are all connected, we are all connected.
The Three Sisters. Very long ago, there were three sisters who lived in a field. The youngest was so small she could not yet walk. She crawled along the ground, dressed in green. The middle sister, who wore a bright yellow dress and darted back and forth across the field. The eldest sister stood tall and straight, and her body bent with the wind. She had long yellow hair and wore a green shawl. The three sisters loved one another very much and could not imagine living without the others. One day, a little Odawa boy came to the field. He was very handsome and knew the ways of the land. He could talk with the birds and the animals and was straight and fearless. The three sisters were very interested in this boy as they watched him use his stone knife to carve a bull or hunt with his bow and arrow. Late in the summer of the boy's first visit to the field, the youngest of the three sisters disappeared. She was the one who could only creep along the ground. She could not even stand unless there was a stick she could cling to. But she was gone, and the other two sisters mourned her until the fall. The Indian boy returned to the field to gather reeds that grew at the edge of a small stream. He used the reeds to make arrow shafts. The two remaining sisters again watched him, fascinated. That night, the second sister disappeared. The one who always wandered here and there around the field. Now, there was only one sister left, the tall and straight sister. She did not bow her head in sorrow, though she mourned deeply and thought she could not live in the field alone without her sisters. As the days grew shorter and colder, her green shawl began to lose its color, and her hair became dry and tangled. Night and day she sighed for her sisters, but her voice was low like the wind, and no one heard her. One day, in the harvest season, the little Odawa boy heard the third sister crying, and he felt sorry for her. He took her into his arms and carried her to his home. And there, a delightful surprise awaited her. Her sisters were there, in the lodge, safe and very glad to be reunited. They explained that they had been curious about the little Odawa boy and had followed him home. And they had decided to stay because winter was coming and his home was warm and comfortable. The sisters also were making themselves useful to the boy and his family. The youngest, now all grown up, kept the dinner pot full, while the second sister, still in her yellow dress, dried herself on the shelf so she could fill the dinner pot later in the winter. The eldest sister was so pleased to be with her sisters again and so impressed with the help they gave the boy that she too began drying herself so the family would have a meal to use as the winter went on. And from that day to this, the three sisters were never separated again.
For it is clear to me that the suffering we now share with him is a small price to pay compared to the beauty and honor that is coming to us. The creation all around us is waiting on tiptoe for Creator's sons and daughters to be revealed in the full beauty of who He has created to them to be. Creation itself became weak and powerless, unable to fulfill its destiny, no, by its own choice, but because one who had the power over it. But there is hope, for Creator has a plan to restore human beings. Then all creation will share the freedom of the life, of the beauty and harmony given to all of Creator's children. It is plain to see that all creation is still groaning in pain like a mother giving birth. And even we who have first tasted this Spirit are groaning on the inside as we wait for Creator to finish the purpose for which He took us into His family by giving us new bodies that will never die. This is what the Creator was planning when He set us free by His Spirit. It is the hope of all creation. We cannot fully see this hope yet, for who hopes for what has already happened? So we must be patient and wait for Creator to bring everything to completion.
I particularly like the way that the First Nations
version of Scripture handled this passage, these words of the Apostle Paul to the church in Rome, talking about creation. The creation all around us is waiting on tiptoe for creators, sons and daughters to be revealed in the full beauty of who God has created them to be. That creation is waiting, breathlessly, anticipating, waiting for us to be revealed as the true children of God that we were made to be. And that creation itself is like a mother giving birth. And those pangs all around us are signs that something new is coming. It's a hopeful message that in the midst of difficulties and suffering, there is a plan. It's God's plan, and it's a plan of birth, and something will be revealed. Not the story that most Christians today, at least in the West, proclaim about creation, is it? It's not the way we look at it, like we're only visiting this planet, right? We're going to get off here and go somewhere else, which leads, sadly, of course, to not caring much about the creation, to think that, well, we can use it up and dispose of it because it really doesn't matter, because God's got a plan and it's going to be something else. But Paul was telling us that plan is here and now. It's this. Even in the book of Revelation, even there where people are getting these ideas, it talks about a new heaven and a new earth. And the New Jerusalem descends to the earth. Everything is regenerated, not that we escape to someplace else, but that someplace else is here. So maybe, here's a shocker, maybe we need to find our place in creation. Maybe we should be thinking of all of creation as kin. Maybe when we speak of the kingdom of God, where all of God's children are loved and embraced and welcomed, and justice reigns for all of God's children, that involves the creation as well. Sounds like Paul thought that. Funny how along the way we forgot to think that way, huh? Now, when we see that all that lives is our kin, is our relatives, our life itself grants personhood of some sort, then we face the inescapable tension between honoring life and taking it in order to live. And in the book, Breeding Sweetgrass, Dr. Kimmerer talks about the indigenous principle of the honorable harvest. The honorable harvest. The ways that native people have handled the crops and the hunting, the gathering and the hunting and everything in creation, the way that they have lived in harmony with the earth. And she sums up the principles. And I want us to look at them. But as we do, think about something you consume. It could be anything. And there are multiple ideas, right? Maybe you want to look at sugar. Think about where your sugar comes from. Do you even know? Do you know the story behind how that got onto your table and what it takes to get there? And or maybe coffee. Maybe you're more familiar with that. Maybe you get fair trade coffee because you're aware of what goes into bringing that to your table. Or maybe something as simple as orange juice, where maybe you've seen the oranges growing, but you know that they're not local. So everything has a history. We can trace it all back. So let us think about these principles that Dr. Kimmerer points out of the honorable harvest. First, she says, know the ways of the ones who take care of you so that you may take care of them. Now, if you're a backyard gardener, if you grow some vegetables that you eat, if you perhaps hunt, then you're aware of that, maybe fishing, you might be aware of the ways of at least some of them. But in the world we live in, we go to the grocery store and we have all kinds of things on the shelves that we don't have a relationship with. We don't know the ways. Do we know how sugarcane is grown? Have you ever seen it? Do you know how it's harvested? Do we even stop to contemplate it? Second step is to introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Now that sounds quaint. That sounds odd. Sounds peculiar, doesn't it? Introducing yourself to your food before you eat it. But Native folks have had this understanding. We keep hearing at the beginning of our worship these stories from indigenous cultures. The story of the three sisters, to think of corn and beans and squash as sisters who work together, grow together, need each other, that have a relationship, is a way of understanding the science that those things need each other. They truly do. So maybe we should relate. Most of us have no problem speaking to a dog or a cat as if they understand English. So perhaps we should learn something from indigenous cultures. Maybe you might even become a saint, if you change your name to Francis anyway, who understood that the animals, all the creatures were brothers and sisters, even the moon and the stars were siblings to us. So introduce yourself to the creatures around you, to the life that surrounds you. And then ask permission before taking. Ask permission. And Dr. Kimmerer talks about that in the book, that it's hard to explain, but indigenous folks do that. When they go out to harvest the sweetgrass, for instance, they pause, introduce themselves, and wait. And you just know whether this one's offering itself or not. You just know. It's so foreign to us because we're so separated, because other people do that for us. But maybe there's a place for us to ask permission before we take. And the hard part, to abide by the answer, because sometimes the answer is no. Never take the first, never take the last. What a simple principle, right? Go past the first thing you see and start harvesting after that. And don't harvest all the way to the edges. The ancient Hebrews had that principle for a very simple reason. You were to leave the edges of your field unharvested for the gleaners, for people who didn't have, so that there would be some for them. But in nature, if you leave some, then it will repopulate, right? If you harvest it all, what's going to grow? Take only what you need. It seems so simple, doesn't it? It's so hard. Because our whole economy is run on more. Not when you're satisfied, stop. So it's very countercultural for us to live by that principle. What would it look like spiritually if we became the people who took only what we needed? Next is take only that which is given. There is no taking. There's only receiving. To have that idea that you don't have a right to any of this, of course, it will lead to gratitude, which we haven't even talked about yet. Never take more than half. Leave some for others. Almost sounds repetitive, doesn't it? Don't take the first, don't take the last, don't take more than half, leave some for others. They're all simple ways that in families, in communities, when we're face to face with people, that's how we live. But somehow when you take away the personal and it just becomes business, just becomes shopping, somehow it's okay to do whatever we feel like and to overconsume because that's the way. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. In our industrial agricultural world and in the mining and the ways that natural resources are taken, that's never the case, is it? It's a whole lot easier to blow off the top of the mountain and remove the minerals than it is to dig into it and leave it intact. And so we do it. We literally blow up the tops of mountains to get the resources. We leave ugly scars many places because it's all about just getting, taking, not receiving, and not honoring or harvesting in a minimized way. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Again, we drill that into our children, don't we? Yet how much of the evidence is there that we live by that? How much food is wasted? I didn't do the research for the numbers just because it's so depressing and most of you already know them, but it's a ridiculous amount of our landfills filled with food. Just food. If we could just eat proper portions and quit wasting. The next principle, share. Share. Just share. It's simple, isn't it? If you have more, don't build a bigger fence, build a longer table. Invite more. Give more away. Quit thinking that it's yours, because we know we can't take. It's all only given. All the resources are that way. And now, give thanks for what you have been given. How can you not? When you have this kind of approach to consuming, how can you not be grateful for all that's gone into this? All the people who've done the work, all the siblings, all the kin that have given up their life, their existence, so that you might exist. And then give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. And indigenous folks do this quite literally. Often it's tobacco. You leave a gift where you harvest. There's a token to that, and that's a good practice. Maybe we should think about what are the gifts that we might give. Perhaps just our words, perhaps just a thank you literally to the creatures that surround us. And maybe it's paying it forward. Maybe the reciprocity is being grateful for what we've received. We use our lives in ways that makes all life better, that we give to the common good. And maybe that's our gift. And finally, sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. So let us be gentle with ourselves and take small steps in response to whatever we discover. And it will be a lot like bushwhacking through the undergrowth. We're going to feel lost. We're going to feel overwhelmed. We're definitely going to feel lost. We probably feel lost now. We probably feel like all is lost. And so what do we do when we're lost? We cry out for help. And our faith tells us that God has a plan and God will help. And it's like birth. You wait and it will be painful, but new life will come. And that's God's plan. And if you are lost in the wilderness, lost in the woods, stuck in the underbrush, not knowing where you are, and you cry out for help, God promises to be present. And how are you saved when you are lost? When you're literally lost in the woods, when someone's lost in the woods and rescuers go out to find them, how are they saved? Not by being magically transported to the end. You're saved when you're found, right? That doesn't mean that the journey's over. It actually means the journey can continue. No, we are safe in the journey. We don't need to be at the end to be safe. We are safe because God surrounds us with love. God surrounds us and fills us and guides us by love. So let us do all that is within our power to kindle more love. For if we do that, if we kindle love in our lives and in our relationships, we will kindle more light, the light of God. We will find the way, we will walk the way, and we will know our God. Amen.
Thank you for going on this journey with us. And I pray that the journey that lies ahead for you will be blessed by whatever gift you may have received from this time. And if you've received a gift and you can give something in reciprocity, we'd be glad to receive it. Perhaps you have some time and some talent that you might share. Perhaps you could do something as simple as showing your gratitude for us by liking this video, sharing this video, subscribing to our channel. All of those things are very helpful. And if you have some ability to give, we would love for you to visit our website and make a donation so that we might use those resources to serve those on the margins of our community together. And so as you go forth into whatever life holds for you, I pray that you will be filled with blessing, that you will know that you don't walk alone, and you will know that there is a path laid out for you, and all you need to know is the next step. May you find it, and may you be blessed. Go in peace.
They paved paradise and put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging art spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paid paradise and put up a parking lot. They took all the trees and put them in a tree museum. And then they charged the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paid paradise and put up a parking lot. Hey farmer, farmer, put away that DDT now. Give me spots on my apples, believe me, the birds and the bees. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They pay paradise and put up a parking lot. Late last night I heard the screen door slam, and a big yellow taxi took away my old man. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They pay paradise and put up a parking lot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They pay paradise and put up a parking lot.